You're supposed to do it like, you go like this.
And with your
smile.
fingers.
Yeah. Ni hao.
Squash your
Shan shan. Yeah. That's
Shan
Taiwan. Shan shan means thank you.
Shan shan.
Ni hao, and that's what they do.
Do you want to
And
know?
then take
Okay.
a photo.
So first of all, like, what was it like to travel alone for you guys?
For me, I've traveled alone before. I love traveling alone. I think it's really fun, and you get to. It's nice to just kind of wake up and think about what do I want to do today. You don't really have to compromise your schedule for anybody else, and it's a really neat way to figure out what you want to do. I enjoyed it. Taiwan was so safe. Everywhere you go, like I said before, people are kind. They're so generous. They just want to help you. People who. When they see you and you're obviously foreign and you have a map and you look like a lost puppy, then they really just want to come out and help you. So traveling alone in Taiwan specifically, it was so easy. It was a breeze, and it was enjoyable. It was fun. Mm-hmm.
I also I've traveled alone for most of my life for work, and every time I film, I'm there by myself for 3 months, and yeah, you have to branch out, make your own friends, do your own thing. Athens was a little different. The crime rate in Athens is very high. So as far as traveling on your own in a country like that, I'd recommend being very cautious of your valuables, and you have to be very attentive, very aware, and very safe. And I think that's like honest advice I would give to somebody traveling alone in an area where maybe it wasn't so safe. Just be very, very conscious, be paying attention, don't be on your phone, look around, and be very observant. Tips and tricks of the travel. Tips and tricks of the professionals.
Yeah, speaking of tips and advice, my next question was, what advice do you have for other young people or other young women who may be traveling abroad by themselves for the first time?
Do it.
Oh, absolutely do it.
If you're traveling alone for the first time and you're thinking about it, do it.
Do it. It is. It's life-changing. Like you discover so much about yourself that you wouldn't if you were with someone else. And I mean, both have their perks, traveling with someone or traveling alone, but there is a safety in going with an organization. There's a safety when you know that there's people that are going to meet you at the airport. They're going to take you to where you need to go. But you still get that freedom of doing what you want to do and figuring out your schedule on weekends when you have time off, etc.
Yeah. I was going to say, like, you know how, like, you're different with different kinds of friends? Like, you have your friends where you're, like, super bubbly and you have your friends that you think with. It's interesting when you're traveling alone to find out what really is sort of your true personality.
Yeah, and it sounds lame, but like you really do discover
yourself. You do figure it out. Yeah. So if you're having a crisis of life, I would recommend traveling alone.
Yeah.
Go alone, work with an organization, do something meaningful.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, going to Hawaii and sitting on the beach for a week is fine too.
Yeah.
But it's a totally different kind of something for your soul.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So both of you guys said earlier that you had instances of culture shock or things that were different from Canada that were a little bit of a struggle at first. So what would you guys say were some of the biggest differences that you experienced and or things that took some adjustments?
Some of the things that were most different about our travels, I would say for me, language and food.
Oh yeah. Oh, of course. Language was huge.
And you said you had a breakfast that wasn't breakfast?
No,
they don't have breakfast.
They don't have breakfast foods. Like they do have breakfast foods, but they just eat sushi and Coke for breakfast. I just couldn't get on board. Like, trust me, I am adventurous when it comes to food. But Coke, I just couldn't do for breakfast. But no, language. Language was the biggest thing. I mean, that's kind of an obvious one, but you go to a country where barely anybody speaks English and it's not their first language, you just don't realize how hard it is to communicate. And it was a barrier. It was a barrier in so many different ways, but that's when you learn the most, when you're uncomfortable. And it puts you in situations that you're very uncomfortable in, but that's when you learn.
But you do learn. That's when you learn the most about yourself, when you learn the most about a culture, when you're not sitting on your phone.
Yeah.
You know.
And that's kind of fun too, is like when you don't have Wi-Fi, you don't have internet or a phone plan, it's...
Yeah, you have to pay attention.
You have to pay attention. You look up from your phone when you're crossing the street. You actually see a new culture. It's pretty
amazing.
Cool. It's a crazy concept, I know.
Yeah, the language in Greece was a big culture shock for me, very different. It was, again, it sort of looks like hieroglyphics, was very confusing to see. I'm sure it was the same for you. It's like, I can't even remember what that looks like.
No,
nothing.
Not even a little bit.
No.
Yeah.
And then the problem with Greek alphabet is their letters actually aren't, they are the same as English letters, except they don't have the same sound. So like an N is like an N is an R, a P is an R, an H is like an E noise.
Yeah, no, I would be able
It
to.
was so hard to figure out. I'm so down to like go take a Greek class. And the history is so cool.
I bet the history would be
Oh
cool
my
there.
gosh, all
Yeah.
the Greek gods and stuff like that. I was like, this is so great. And people were like, yeah, this is the mount of like blah blah blah, and this fantastic thing happened on this rock. I was like, yes.
This rock.
That was really cool. Everything, everything in Canada is only a couple hundred years old. Over there,
Yeah.
it's like 1,000,
Yeah.
2,000 years old. It's awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That's cool.
That's really cool. Awesome. And so on kind of, AIESEC is a youth-run organization, and like the whole mission of why we send people abroad is to kind of empower them to discover themselves, but also to figure out how they can contribute to like larger issues, or like kind of figure out like what their role is in making positive impact. And so and you guys have also both volunteered separately before as well. What do you think volunteer experiences bring to a young person, both like personally and professionally as well?
I think I have a good
Go.
kind of thought on this. There's only so many hashtags you can do before you actually have to do something. There's only so many hashtag pray for Paris, hashtag me too, hashtag. There's only so much stuff you can do that doesn't cost you anything before you actually have to do something. And I think that call in people, it exists in everyone, and it's just kind of at the point where it's just sometimes people have to do something about it, and there's lots of options for people to do stuff like that. What were you going to say?
Yeah, no, and even that's a good point, and even walking away from it afterward, you have this sense of fulfillment in you, and it's not just because of what you gained, but it's because of what you gave when you were there, and going on trips with another organization and experiencing those other cultures. I think one of the biggest things for me was seeing what makes people happy, seeing what gives people joy, and it's
sometimes
so different.
small. It's not the same.
Is small. It usually is small, and you just realize how much we take for granted back here in North America, where it's some of the richest places in the world, and you just realize how much we have and how little joy we have. And going to places like this and seeing, especially seeing kids with a toothbrush that makes them so happy, it just really gives you a different perspective on life, and you walk away feeling more fulfilled because you know that these things that I have back home, a lot of them don't really mean anything, but experiences in situations like this to actually go and, like you said, do something, you walk away just feeling so much richer than the materialistic things you have back home.
Yep. Boom.
It's really loud.
What do you think a volunteer experience living abroad for 6 weeks or more? Like, what do you think that can teach a person?
Oh.
Like if you were to do these types of like volunteer projects just like over and over, like to the span of 6 weeks.
Oh my gosh, the amount you would learn would be crazy.
You'd be a different person.
Yeah, you would be a different
By
person.
the time you were done, like a 6-week program.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
For
Especially
sure.
if it was different places.
Yeah.
Right? Like,
I met people that
Really?
had been, one girl had just finished a project in South America, then she was doing one in Greece, and she wanted to do one more, and then she was going to go do her master's. And she was just the coolest person. And she was such a complete person.
yeah.
Like she was totally comfortable with herself. You know the kind of people that when they talk to you, they're like listening. I'm sorry, it's
concept.
rare. It is a rare thing. Like people that are like, and then she was actually like, she was just a really cool person, and I was like, man, that's so neat. But I think it changes you as a person.
Yeah.
Having to travel on your own, and you get rid of all the baggage that you bring with you after a certain point, like the family stuff and the friend drama and the things that are trivial at home, they fade away, and you actually get to focus on what matters.
Especially the longer you go. Like,
Yeah.
I think for us, we went just under 3 weeks, which was amazing, and there's definitely a lot that we learned. But I think the longer you go, 6 weeks and more, and especially traveling to different cultures after that, I think it would just, that whole pocket of things that maybe are a little bit more meaningless from back home, they just start to vanish a little bit. And
Yeah.
they mean less and less and less the more time you do these things, which is something that I
Yeah.
wish we could have done.
I
I wish we
know.
could have stayed longer, because then we would have really, really experienced more.
And I didn't talk to anybody there that was like done their program and they're like, that was too long.
Oh, yeah, no, never.
And I talked to so many people, so many volunteers that were just finishing their program. They're like, I wish I had more time. It was great. I think it's the perfect amount of time.
Yeah.
The most
Most.
the most you can manage. The most amount of time that you can manage.
Yeah.
Sign up for that. Yeah.
Awesome. And oftentimes, I think young people feel that the problems in the world are either too big for them to contribute to, like they're beyond their scope, or that it's not necessarily their responsibility.
It's not
to
their problem.
contribute to solving
Yeah.
those problems. What are you guys' thoughts on those types of?
Mentalities? I have been involved in a couple organizations now where they have like a sustainability program, and you actually get to see a difference between a village or a town that's had an impact of people working to improve their living situation and one that's not. And the difference is so big just from being involved in one community. So I personally know the difference that one group of people can make, one person can make. I mean, look at all the people that change the world. Like, there's one person.
Yeah.
So no, I don't think that's acceptable to think that you don't make a difference.
No, and I think if that is their mentality, then that should just be even more of a push for that person to go on a trip like this, to really see the difference you do make. Because it's not only, I know that there are so many big problems in the world, but once you go on these trips, you experience firsthand how you made a difference. So whether it be, you know, you went to a village and you actually helped build a house from the ground up with maybe a group of 10 other volunteers, you see that actually is going to affect, and you meet the person that's now going to live in that house and has a different life because of it, you know? Like, you actually get to meet these people firsthand. You know their name, you interact with them, and that's what makes the biggest difference, is when you have that personal connection with them, and you're like, wow, you know what, maybe this is not on the larger scale changing the world, but you changed that person's world. You changed their life, which is their world, you know? So it's I would encourage people that think that way to go on these trips even more.
Yeah.
Those are the ones that need it, I think.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, so my last question for you guys is, after spending time with some of the people in AIESEC, like both here in Canada and also, you know, while you were abroad, what do you think is something that's different about us as an organization compared to like study abroad programs or travel agencies? Or
You're going to have to...
AIESEC is extremely youth-based. So there's not like the head honcho reaching down that's like 90 years old that's made $1 cotillion off of a charity group. That it really is like initiatives set up by youth for youth, and the programs are designed by people just like you. So the difference between AIESEC and other groups is that they're really in touch with the kind of engagement that they're looking for, the kind of,
Well, yeah, because they're your age, right? Like, you guys are all in the same boat. So the people who are putting on these trips and putting on these, with these organizations, they know what they would want to do. So they kind of expect the volunteers to want to do the same thing. And what I liked is that there was a really good balance about seeing the culture and seeing what you wanted to do as well as helping. And it was just kind of like it went hand in hand, which was really nice. And I noticed that was different from a lot of other organizations where you had a lot of freedom to do what you wanted to do as well, which I think is the beauty of the trip.
Yeah. And there was like, I don't know, I got picked up at the airport by somebody who was 21.
Yeah.
You know? And they were my age, and they were like, oh yeah, I literally just did what you did 3 weeks ago. Welcome to my world. Let me show you around a little bit, and let's go get a drink.
Yeah.
Here's a cool little pub I discovered. It's very organic. It's very local. It's not a tourism-centered thing. It's like, here's the place I discovered when I was having a meltdown, and this was my quiet little coffee place. I'm like, awesome. I want to have a meltdown too. Let's go get coffee.
Coffee right now.
And yeah, I've got so much material just from interviewing these people and talking to these people. And then when you interview people, I actually got the chance to ask some questions you don't get to ask people you just met for the first time, like real personal this time. They're like, oh, okay. But they answer, and you get to learn so much. And yeah, I would say AIESEC's very different.
Yeah, and I think especially because the people who are working with AIESEC, they've been volunteers too. So again, it's not like you're talking to somebody who doesn't understand what it's like to go abroad
or what
and
you're
these
doing.
Experiences.
Yeah,
they know because they've done it. And like you said, some of them are continuing to do it.
Yeah.
I did it 3 weeks ago, and I'm going again next week. Like, I think that's the cool part too, is that you're very much on the same playing ground, and you understand each other. And there's things about them that maybe other organizations wouldn't have because they haven't been on those trips firsthand. So I think that was really cool too.
The AIESECers are really cool too. Do you want to know thank you in Greek?
Yeah.
Ευχαριστώ.
Oh, that was fancy. Say it again.
Yeah. I won't do the accent.
Okay.
Frau.
Stol.
Stol. Il Frali Stol.
Il Frali Stol. And want to say hello
With the
in
accent?
Taiwanese?
Okay.
Or Chinese?
Yeah.
Ni hao.
Ni hao. I got that one.
Yeah.